But we want to shift our focus now to this developing story. Strong winds and heavy rains continue to increase in strength as Cyclone Freddy makes a landfall over Vilanculos in Mozambique. UNICEF Mozambique says its teams are on the ground assessing the needs and preparing for distribution of essential supplies. The organization, however, says it's deeply concerned about flooding and prolonged disruption of critical services. Let's discuss this further now. We're joined by Guy Taylor from UNICEF Mozambique. Mr. Taylor, good morning and thank you very much for your time. So just from observation, Cyclone Freddy has left destruction in Madagascar, 4 dead, 11,000 displaced. What is the expected intensity of the tropical storm in Mozambique?
Well, we've been seeing very high winds this morning and heavy rain. It seems to have dropped off slightly now, I think probably because we're actually entering the eye of the storm, but expecting it to pick up again this afternoon as the storm moves inland. We're very concerned about the devastation resulting from the wind, particularly on basic infrastructure and people's homes and houses. We're also, as you said, extremely concerned about the likely impacts of flooding across broader parts of the country, across the central and southern regions of Mozambique.
So how has it been now, particularly we understand that in Inhambane and Beria? How's it looking now? Are there any preemptive evacuations that have already taken place? Are people fully prepared?
Well, I think it's very difficult to fully prepare. Mozambique is obviously a low-income country and infrastructure is fairly weak in many places. However, fortunately, UNICEF and others have obviously known about this storm for several days and weeks now, and we've been making extensive preparations, working closely with local authorities, the central government, and with our partners in the United Nations and civil society. So that's included, for example, pre-positioning large quantities of essential supplies. We're currently assessing the situation and will continue to do so as the hurricane or tropical storm passes over, and then we will begin as soon as possible to distribute those items to the people who are most vulnerable here on the ground.
Can you just paint us a picture of the situation now? There's the heavy winds and rain. Any destruction, significant destruction of property at this point?
It's hard to assess at this point. We've only been experiencing the heavy winds for a few hours so far. Many of the structures, as I said, in the surrounding area are fairly rudimentary and not designed to stand up to this kind of winds. And so I think it's very likely that there will be quite widespread destruction in this immediate area. But as I said, the flooding is perhaps the real concern. Every river basin, every reservoir in southern and central Mozambique is already full, already on local alert. And the rain that this cyclone is bringing with it will inevitably cause widespread flooding. That will exacerbate the cholera outbreak which the country is experiencing, and it will likely cut off children and families from essential life-saving services, potentially for prolonged periods of time, which is extremely worrying.
Well, certainly worrying, especially because Mozambique has been actually experiencing quite a lot of rain for several days now, leading to that red alert we heard of. So insofar as government's coordination is concerned, are you satisfied at this point? Are they doing all they can to ensure that there are no lives lost and just minimum destruction of property?
Yeah, the government is certainly stepping up and leading a concerted response. UNICEF is working very closely with the government, both at national level, around national level preparations, and also here on the ground in Inhambane, the provincial capital, and here as well, to make sure that support and aid needs the people who need it most as soon as possible.
And when are we expecting the storm to subside somewhat?
So I believe it will subside later in the day, potentially going into the night tonight. But again, the concern really is that the rain which is following the storm, or which the storm is bringing, and that will likely continue a while longer and spread over the central regions as the storm moves inland.
Mr. Taylor, thank you very much for your time this morning. We will most certainly continue to touch base with you and other organizations that are on the ground in Mozambique. That was Guy Taylor from UNICEF Mozambique. More news on the other side of this break. Do stay with us.